10 years have passed since the world fell apart. But now, something far worse than death stalks these streets. In this challenge, I'm testing how long I can survive using the Zombies of Dimension and 10 Years Later mods, with Horde Nights occurring every 10 days starting on day 30. Can I navigate this twisted new world and survive the unimaginable horrors it holds? Let's find out. We begin our journey at the Rosewood Police Station. 10 years have passed since the zombie outbreak, and in that time, nature has reclaimed its territory. Foliage now blankets nearly every square inch of urban decay. Without hesitation, I scoured the area for supplies, food, clothing, and weapons. Alas, there's no gun shop in Rosewood. The police station and prison are the only locations with guns, and I'm not going back to jail. I filled my pockets and made a beeline for the neighboring fire station. The Rosewood Fire Station is easily one of my favorite locations for a base. I arrived at the fire station and immediately grabbed a fire axe. Then, I began exploring each room, clearing out zombies as I encountered them. Once the interior was secured, I stepped outside to assess the situation. The area was choked by dense clusters of trees and cars, creating a labyrinth that would complicate survival during the upcoming Horde Nights. The overgrown environment limited my line of sight and made driving through the tangled streets nearly impossible. Once I ran out of local food supplies, scavenging would become very problematic, especially with my driving skills. After dispatching a few lingering zombies, I immediately began deforesting my surroundings, gathering logs for building my defenses. The extreme overgrowth had one benefit: lots of logs. I spent the rest of days 0 and 1 clearing trees and any zombies that loitered onto my property.
God, how many of the same guy?
On day 2, I turned my attention to the nearby houses, determined to find some food and other goodies. I began clearing out cupboards and closets, pocketing the essentials and making mental notes of what I left behind. But after a few houses, I had my first brush with death.
Oh my god! Holy shit, where did he come from? Oh my god, I'm out of here.
That zombie was a demolisher. He can't be pushed, he attacks you with spikes from the ground, and when you hit him, he might explode and set you on fire. So I said, nope, and ran back home. My tail was firmly secured between my legs, so I stayed in for the evening, training my reloading. On day 3, I was rudely awakened by sporadic banging from downstairs. Overnight, the living dead had shattered the windows of the gym and infiltrated my base. Those jerks. I greeted the intruders the way I knew best, a strong handshake and a swift axe to the cranium. This is why I have no friends. Next task. Personally, when I feel out of sorts, I like to clean. The movement gets the blood flowing, and the activity helps to declutter my mind and focus on the present. So I began plucking some of the weeds budding throughout my garage. On day 4, I had an unfortunate realization. I was missing a hammer to use for building wooden defenses.
Wait, there was... Did I go looking for a hammer?
I opted for wooden defenses this run because training metalworking would be a massive time sink. With the horde of souped up zombies arriving on day 30, I didn't have time for it. So I set out in search of a hammer, focusing my search efforts on my neighbors' houses. Fortunately, persistence paid off. In a nearby garage on day 5, I gratefully located a ball-peen hammer. Encouraged with my progress, I decided to extend my looting expedition a little bit longer. Though, throughout my outing, the ever-present threat of the unique zombies loomed large, their unusual abilities complicating every step of the journey.
Oh,
Brother, What's that?
Despite their threat, I decided to head to the bookstore and surrounding buildings. To efficiently train my carpentry skills, I would need carpentry books, which would give me a multiplier to carpentry experience. Upon arriving at the stores, I was struck by the decrepit state of the buildings. Decades-old grass burst through cracks in the floor, and metal was caked in rust. Large sections of walls had been removed, perhaps by the same survivors who fashioned the makeshift furniture scattered throughout the premises. Struck by a sudden fear, I began scrutinizing my surroundings. Uncertain of what horrors the old walls might conceal, I embarked on a meticulous search, stepping cautiously into the next room. There, I encountered a nearby zombie shuffling toward me. 2 swift strikes to its head ended its misery. The remnants left behind by the previous inhabitants proved mostly useless. Still, I continued searching just in case. Eventually, I discovered a set of carpentry books on a dusty, grime-covered bookshelf. With the books secured, I made my way back home, dodging zombies along the route before finally calling it a night. It was now day 6. I immediately began carpentry training, reading book 1 and cleaning the base for a couple of days. Over the next 4 days, I cautiously dismantled derelict furniture. Gradually, my consistent practice steadied my unsteady hands, transforming me into a somewhat intermediate carpenter. By the 11th day, my confidence had blossomed. In celebration, I began constructing my first layer of defense, a wooden wall. I hauled logs into the garage and started sawing them into planks. Clutching my freshly cut wood, I spent the entire day shaping my first fortification. The following day, I awoke to another intrusion. I'll never get used to the shock of transitioning from sleep to deadly combat. Yet, this only deepened my resolve to finish the wall. I resumed work, but before long, I ran out of nails.
Please tell me that's not all of my nails. Oh god, that might be all of my nails.
Exhausted yet determined, I set out on another looting expedition to replenish my supplies.
No, please.
Over several hours, I secured 3 boxes of nails and also a generator. It was heavy, but I needed to be prepared for the eventual loss of electricity. After the journey, I collapsed into bed, my rain-soaked clothes dampening the sheets. Unfortunately, I would soon deplete my nails once more.
I've already went through all my nails? Oh, god damn it.
I never said I was a good planner, and if I was making excuses, I'd say I'm spontaneous. This setback sent me on another trip where I found 4 boxes of nails. But on the way back, I confronted a terrifying monstrosity.
Oh my god. Oh, that scared the fuck out of me. Oh jeez Louise, I did not like that.
While others call this zombie a snitcher, I find Siren Head more fitting. You'll know when a Siren Head spots you. Its unearthly roar sends a chilling signal that alerts every zombie in the area to your presence. I ran home, adrenaline surging from the near miss, yet also haunted by the paranoia sparked by that dreadful roar. Now, with just 9 days left before the Horde's arrival, the wall's construction was nearly complete. However, the following morning, the sound of torrential rain roused me. Not wanting to catch a deadly cold, I decided to gather enough planks to repair the broken garage door and spend the day shoring up the defenses within the base. I used metal shelves to block the garage windows, rearranged leftover furniture to serve as barricades, and reinforced garage doors with sturdy lockers. Yet, even within the relative safety of my base, disaster struck. While carrying a locker downstairs, the heavy load caused my leg to give out, fracturing a bone. Somehow, I managed to position the locker and hobble upstairs to splint the wound. Panic set in. A leg fracture could take weeks, even months, to heal. I desperately ate a full meal and began resting, aware that much of the day was now wasted. Day 22 brought with it 2 opposing, yet essential goals. I had to keep preparing my defenses, but also try to mend my fractured leg. My only realistic hope was to be able to walk normally, not stagger, when the horde came. I hesitated, questioning whether I would survive past day 30. On day 23, overwhelmed by mounting pressure, I reluctantly started smoking. I had sworn off the habit at the beginning of the challenge, but I needed something to lessen the burden on my psyche. Now, I needed to be smart. How would I survive if my movement was hampered by the fracture? I conceived an uncertain idea and acted on it regardless. Construct a wooden tunnel with reinforced walls to channel the zombies. Inside the tunnel, I built a series of fences. Zombies are clumsy. They lunge over obstacles chaotically, which causes them to stumble and fall, hopefully slowing their advance and giving me room for a killing blow. Just in case, I also knocked out a section of the second floor wall and built a fence where I could attach an escape rope if things went south. The next 2 days were less eventful, but still tense. Low on food, I went scavenging, during which I had a close call with a cloaking zombie. I didn't notice it until it popped into visibility a few feet away.
Oh, what the fuck are you? Ah!
Slashing at me with its long claws.
Die! Ow.
Afterwards, I explored wealthy suburbs I hadn't yet searched, and looted enough supplies to see me through the upcoming horde night, before finally heading home.
Okay, I'm confused.
Day 28, I organized my weapons on the floor to take stock, and get a dramatic looking shot. I decided to save the guns as a last resort, as their noise could draw extra zombies from far away. Electricity finally went out during the night. I wasn't too worried thanks to my prior preparations. The generator was ready. I siphoned gas from nearby cars and filled it up. However, I soon realized I was lacking the skill required to connect the generator to my electrical grid. And when I checked my collection of books,
Oh my god, it's not here. I would have sworn I had it.
I realized I didn't have the magazine that taught the skill. I am not a clever man. With no electricity, my defensive tunnel was shrouded in darkness. So, with time running out, a makeshift lamp would have to suffice. Day 30, the morning before horde night. I began walking normally again as my leg healed, but panic still gripped me. Were my defenses sufficient? I'd also noticed a big issue. These zombies are, well, not the smartest, having lost their navigational abilities. They don't know how to navigate around obstacles. If I wasn't in direct sight, the horde would simply attack the walls between us. Funneling them down the tunnel wouldn't be as easy as I'd hoped. To counter this, I knocked out one wall behind me to gain some vision. I didn't want a large horde to build up behind me, unbeknownst to me, before smashing through the wall. Then, to address the overall issue, I opened the doors, stationed myself near the entrance, and began shouting. The night started surprisingly well. With the doors acting similarly to the fences I'd installed earlier, the zombies slowly began coming one by one.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Teleporting motherfucker. Nice. Ah, fuck, no, no. Oh. Come on, just go around. Very juicy piece of meat right here.
I managed to dispatch most of them with swift, skillful strikes. However, my health had already been compromised by the fractured leg, and the zombie attacks were inching it lower and lower. Perhaps I was cocky for sticking around so long, but things were going so well, until a charger hit me.
Oh fuck, I forgot about them.
Once a charger gets close, it dashes in and can easily stumble you. But thankfully, I regained footing without a bite and sprinted behind my defenses. After a brief dash upstairs for food, the horde seemed to lose interest, so I returned to the door and resumed shouting. The rest of the night unfolded in much the same way. I guarded the door, dispatching zombies as long as possible and falling back when necessary. Eventually, after thinning their numbers, I felt safe enough to venture outside in the darkness. It was risky, but I could hear them attacking my walls outside, and I was worried the remaining zombies might be damaging the far side of the building. I snuck around, bashing in heads in the dark, and confirmed my suspicion. I finished off the remainder of the first horde on the other side of my base. Then, I went inside and passed out from exhaustion. A few hours later, I woke up and stepped outside. Several walls lay destroyed, though nothing critical. A pile of rotting bodies had amassed by my door. I worried about catching an illness from them, but I still searched their pockets for useful items. Having survived the first horde night, I began to think long term. How could I survive indefinitely? First, I needed more food. I was nearly out. Second, I needed better weapons, but it had almost exhausted all nearby loot. So, I decided it was time to drive to a gas station, hoping to find more provisions and perhaps a generator magazine. Earlier, I discovered a news van near my base that was still in usable condition. I grabbed a gas can and scoured other cars in the rain for gas to siphon. After filling the gas can, I poured it into the van and fired up the engine. A small car blocked my path to the road, so I prepared to tow it aside. But the engine's roar drew a pack of zomboids. In heavy rain, zombies tend to wander unpredictably, making it easy to stumble into larger groups. After a tense struggle, I cleared them out and returned to moving the car, only to be interrupted again by more shambling undead. Frustrated by the downpour and relentless attacks, I decided to postpone my journey until the next day. I left base at 8 AM the following morning. Once I reached the turn, I was quickly reminded how suffocating this environment really was. The entire road was clogged with abandoned vehicles. I could barely squeeze the van onto the road. I started cutting down trees to clear a path around the initial jam, hoping the blockage would dissipate beyond that section. I managed to create a small detour off the road. But not before long,
Oh, can I squeeze between these two?
I found myself blocked again. I hopped out of the van to clear a few zombies and fallen trees, but then I was ambushed by a large group. Eventually, I got back into my van and took off. At this point, my frustration peaked, so when I saw a gap between some cars, I floored the gas pedal and attempted to force my way through. Needless to say, it was pointless. I decided to abandon the van and run the rest of the way to the gas station.
No, 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 no!
At last, I reached the gas station.
I just hope there's not too many zombies here.
Feeling exhausted, I decided to take some vitamins to stave off fatigue. Then, things took a turn for the worse. I encountered a demolisher and his friend loitering out front.
No, no, no. No, no. No, please, 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 please.
Immediately, I engaged them in fisticuffs. But, for whatever reason, I couldn't push the demolisher over. He can't be pushed. Push. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely not just realizing this while writing the script.
Oh yeah, right.
Minutes passed with the demolisher trying to steal some smooches while I shoved him away like an angry prom date. It was a miracle that I ended up with nothing more than this nasty laceration. Finally, I made it inside the gas station, only to find no generator magazine and little worthwhile food. So the following morning, like any unsupervised 13-year-old would do in an apocalypse, I filled my bags with energy drinks and then left. Earlier on, I'd spotted another working vehicle on my way to the gas station. I hopped in, thinking I could switch between vehicles once I reached the roadblock where I'd abandoned the van. But greed got the best of me. I attempted to take a cargo trailer along, which ultimately got me stuck just in time to be spotted by a siren head. I tried to run it over, but it was too late. A horde was already on my tail. I was in no condition to fight, given the number of wounds I'd sustained. I was near my van, but the blockage prevented a quick escape, forcing me to leave it behind as well. I eventually arrived back at base around 3 PM on day 33. Things were beginning to look grim. I felt like I'd wasted 3 days of preparation, with only 7 days left until the next horde night, and this time with an extra 50 zombies. My food was low and my axes were in poor condition. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay.
So, I started with one task. When everything feels overwhelming, begin with something simple. My fence strategy had worked well the first time, but now I needed to repair my axes or I'd have no melee weapon. That meant finding some tape or glue, both of which are commonly found in cars, and luckily I had plenty of those around. I began searching every car in sight, collecting as much duct tape as possible. I passed a motorcycle near my base that I had noticed earlier in the run was in good condition. This reminded me of an idea I'd had. Although the motorcycle didn't have keys, if I could get my electrician skill to level 1 and mechanics to level 2, I'd be able to hotwire it. A motorcycle would be far easier to navigate around car jams, allowing me to venture further in search of food and weapons. This idea lit a spark of hope. With that in mind, I continued my tape search. I needed to survive the next horde night and leave as soon as possible afterward, to maximize my days for gathering supplies. I also struck luck by finding a van filled with electrician supplies, including a beginner's electrician book that would make reaching level 1 much easier. After gathering sufficient duct tape, I returned to base, where, after sleeping, I read the entire electrician book, and spent the next 3 days dismantling electronics at the elementary school. Once I finally hit level 1 in electrician skills, I went back to base and slept. I awoke on day 39, one day before the next horde night. To bolster my defenses, I built a second series of fences, this time extending from my rooftop. If things got too dangerous downstairs, I could fall back up there. Plus, it provided a better vantage point to observe the horde outside. I also wanted to prevent the zombies from getting stuck on my outer wall, so I took a very risky move and knocked down a major section of the fire station wall, hoping that the wider entrance would help funnel them toward the fences. Also, I did something a bit cheesy. With the help of some sleeping pills, I slept through the beginning of the horde night and woke up at dawn, when I could fight the horde in the light. The fight began. My new setup was working surprisingly well. The zombies quickly noticed me and began flowing in as planned. At some point, however, the sheer number of bodies piling up at the fences made me queasy. I retreated farther back and eventually went to the platform for a better view. Thankfully, by then, the rain had stopped.
Oh, I can't get him with the ninja star. Ah! Jesus. Oh my god. Is he dead? Once things quieted down on the roof, I returned downstairs
and ventured outside to finish off the last stragglers. After a victory smoke, I finally went to sleep. Again, I had survived. It was time to start phase 2 of the plan. First, I cleared out some zombies I must have missed the previous night. Then, I took a short detour to the grocery store for more food. Then spent the next 3 days outside, tirelessly removing and reinstalling windshields and trunks, over and over, until I eventually reached Mechanics Level 2. On the morning of day 45, with only 5 days remaining until the third Horde Night, I left with the motorcycle. I knew I had to make this count, so I headed for the most dangerous place I knew, the military research base north of Rosewood. Reaching this base was no easy feat. The road had been swallowed by overgrowth, but the struggle was worth it for the stockpile of weaponry inside. The motorcycle's accelerator was strong,
Oh, that is so frustrating, man.
but not strong enough to smash through the plenty of trees that I hit.
Oh, my dear fucking lord.
Halfway through the trip, I had to stop to treat my injuries, during which I was ambushed by several zombies.
Oh man.
Afterwards, I slept through the night, drank an energy drink in the morning, treated my wounds again, and set off once more. After 10 long years in this apocalypse, I had no idea what to expect at the military base, and soon I'd learned that it was far worse than I imagined.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Like everywhere else, foliage and abandoned cars littered the property. But the base had one chilling feature. Heads on spikes were eerily decorated around the property. It looked like a Mad Max cult had set up shop, and the zombies were everywhere. At this point, I began to think I'd messed up. I'd sustained multiple injuries from ramming into trees, and my axe was nearly broken. My only hope for survival was the weaponry hidden inside the base. I ran inside the base and entered an empty hallway, which was closed at the far end. This brief respite allowed me to collect my thoughts and have a quick nap. Unfortunately, there was no turning back. The only road was forward. I decided to press on towards the weapons. If I could secure them, perhaps I could clear the base with firepower. The far door was locked, so I quickly disassembled it with my hammer. The loud noise attracted one curious zombie, which I swiftly took care of. I tried to make it to the gun lockers, but a large group of zombies blocked my way. Panicking, I ran past them, slamming the door shut just in time. At this point, every room seemed to be teeming with zombies. I took a left turn, dead end, then retraced my steps and found another seemingly empty hallway. I dashed in and slammed the door behind me. What had started as an innocuous hallway quickly became my nightmare. The neighboring rooms were also crawling with the undead, and they had caught my scent. I locked myself in an empty medical closet. Once the zombies broke out of the rooms, I tried funneling them one at a time through the door. Initially, my plan worked. But soon, 3 zombies broke through. They clambered at me, chomping on my limbs and drawing blood, but thankfully it was only a scratch. I managed to escape to another room. Honestly, I have no idea how I did it, but I was able to lure a few zombies in and finish them with my axe. Then, I snuck up on unsuspecting foes, pushed them over to preserve my axe's durability, and finished them on the ground. I collected guns and ammunition from their bodies, gradually building a modest arsenal. I avoided using the guns for now, as I didn't want to alert every nearby zombie. Yet hunger and exhaustion were taking their toll on my melee damage and endurance. After a brutal bout of combat in the dark, I barricaded a door in one of the medical rooms and managed to steal a few hours of sleep. Still, I was tired and ravenous. Checking the map, I discovered that the only path to the kitchen was incredibly dangerous, but I had no choice. I tried to sneak out, only to be spotted by a siren head, which alerted all nearby zombies. Somehow, against all odds, I made it past the ghouls and barricaded myself in the kitchen. There, I found a very limited supply of food and a source of water. I slept in a folding chair that night, and the following morning, I realized this was where I had to make my last stand. There was no other option, and nowhere else to run. Still, I needed more ammo if I was going to stand a chance. I removed the barricade and began luring zombies once more. One by one, I pushed them over and slid my hunting knife into their head. Eventually, however, I ventured too far and was discovered. I ran back inside the kitchen and quickly rebuilt the barricade. Then, gathered all my weaponry and devoured the remaining food. Eventually, while I was snacking, the door finally gave out. It wasn't too bad at first, just one or two zombies. But the gunfire attracted more, and soon, chaos erupted. For a moment, there was a silence, and I almost believed I had survived. Then, it came. My worst nightmare. A siren head. I heard it scream, and I knew my fate was sealed. Every zombie in a 100-tile radius now knew my location. The horde descended, and this time, they were merciless. In the kitchen of the military research base, after surviving 10 long years of the apocalypse, I faced my demise. Hello everybody, King Goma here. Thank you so much for watching to the end of my video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider liking the video, commenting below, and perhaps subscribing for more. Honestly, it really helps small channels like mine out, and I would be extremely appreciative if you did. Thank you, and have a great day!